and welcome to Channel 11 News. I am Morgan, here with my partner Brianna and news reporter Emily. What you have just seen was raw footage of the controversial explosion of the Fat Man and Little Boy bomb. Tonight we will be covering the latest news on the release of this atomic bomb from the Manhattan Project. Now to Brianna with a recap of the background information of this breaking news story.
The Manhattan Project all started with a letter that was written from Albert Einstein to FDR regarding the known chain reactions of uranium. It was said that these reactions could create a huge amount of power that could overall make really powerful bombs.
However, Albert Einstein didn't meet with FDR about his fantastic discovery. His friend, Alexander Sachs, who was an economist on Wall Street, showed him the letter.
In his letter, he explained his concern on how Germany was doing the same type of research as he was. He urged FDR to allow them to start researching these atomic bombs as well. At first, FDR said no, but as he kept on thinking about it, he gave in, and the Manhattan Project had officially begun.
The Manhattan Project being approved on 12/28/1942, the site for this project was immediately under construction. Originally, the site was in D.C., but then, due to a space issue, it had to be moved. Leslie Richard Groves, a man whose duties overseas during World War I had been canceled, took control of the Pentagon and bought 52,000 acres of land for this new site that could now hold 45,000 people. It was located along the Clinch River, not too far from Nashville, Tennessee.
With the need of so much space, families on undeveloped farmland had to be removed so that the production plants could be built. Morgan, tell us a little bit on the naming of this huge site.
The original name of this project was called Site X. It was then changed to Clinton Engineer Works. After then being changed once, it was renamed Oak Ridge and still holds that same name today.
Over time, Oak Ridge became the fifth largest city in Tennessee and held 1/7 of the power produced in the United States. Its three main sites in Oak Ridge were the Y12, X10, and K25. Now to Emily at the home of a fellow worker whose name is Bob Scott.
I'm talking with Bob Scott, a former Manhattan Project chemist. Well, let's get started by asking how you actually got involved in the Manhattan Project.
I had been in graduate school about 2 or 3 weeks when I received an invitation to come to the physics building for an interview about a potential job, which I was not interested in having. And at the end of the day, I found out that it was about nuclear energy, and that it was called the Manhattan Project. And I joined the Manhattan Project in Chicago at that time in summer of '42.
So what did they tell you about the Manhattan Project?
They just said that they were working on a new source of energy which was not clear whether it would be used to power tanks and fly airplanes or for bombs.
What part of the Manhattan Project did you work on?
Actually, I worked on the effects of radiation on materials, particularly materials of construction. It would be used for an atomic pile to determine how they were affected by radiation. And we used the cyclotron at the University of Chicago and the Van de Graaff generator at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend.
What about radiation?
One of the requirements working on the Manhattan Project, everyone had to wear what was called a film badge. You put that on when you went to work in the morning and you handed it in at night so they could test how much radiation you had received during the day in doing your various experiments. And the limit, as I remember, was 1/10 of a Roentgen per day. Above that was considered dangerous. And everyone working on the project was monitored very closely.
How did you feel after you found out what your research was used for when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
It was a very mixed feeling, obviously. Enthused because the war was coming to an end, sad because it meant the death of a tremendous number of people, innocent people.
Thank you for that wonderful insight into the creation of those mysterious bombs. Back to you, Brianna.
I think we can all imagine how conflicted the scientists working on these bombs were.
In fact, Brianna, there are many advertisements set out throughout the site in order to keep morale and motivation up among workers.
Now that we know about the workers in the site, we are going to go into some other important news.
Yes, the Truman Press release said that just yesterday, on July 6th, 1945, great anticipation ran wild. In white sands misarranged near Alamogordo, New Mexico, years of research, tests, and hard work was now over.
Robert Oppenheimer, one of the directors of the Manhattan Project, was able to sigh in relief.
Oppenheimer was seen doing this. For the last few seconds, he stared directly ahead, and when the announcer shouted, "Now," and there came this tremendous burst of light, followed abruptly thereafter by the deep growling of the explosion. His face relaxed into an expression of tremendous relief, recalled General L. Groves, the main director of this project. The little boy bomb was dropped on the city of Hiroshima, while the Fat Man bomb was dropped on Nagasaki.
The explosion carried more power than 20,000 tons of TNT and could be spotted for over 200 miles, for the world's first bomb had been blown up and was a success.
You're right, Brianna. This explosion was one of the largest the world has ever seen. Well, it has been a great few days here in our country, and the way we fight wars is forever going to be changed due to the release of these bombs. I'm Morgan.
And I'm Brianna, signing off.
Good night, America.